The movie opens with Jin Seok settling into a new residence with his family, his parents, and elder brother Yoo. Jin Seok's older brother is an admired figure in the family, and he is a smart guy who graduated from the top elite university. Despite an injured left leg from a past car accident, his charm and athleticism have made him a role model for Jin and a beloved presence in their community. His reliability and warmth have long held the family together. As the family settles in, movers help arrange furniture in their fresh start. Jin learns he'll temporarily share a room with Yoo because the previous owner is still using one of the rooms for storage. While tidying up, their mother calls Yoo downstairs to help her, leaving Jin alone with one of the movers, who casually asks about Yoo's age. Jin laughs, mentioning how people often say the brothers don't look alike. Meanwhile, Yoo returns, redirecting the mover to assist their mom, and the brothers finish setting up their shared space. In the evening, the rain pours as the family gathers for a celebratory meal in their new home. During dinner, their father issues a warning not to enter the locked room, as per the old owner's instructions. The room is off limits until the owner clears it out in a month, a condition Jin agrees to without a second thought. As the family enjoys dinner, a loud sound echoes from the locked room upstairs. Jin immediately notices it, but this family dismisses it as thunder. Before the meal concludes, Jin's father reminds him to take his antidepressant medication. Later that evening, Yoo retires early, leaving Jin awake and engrossed in his music. A sudden, sharp sound from the locked room piques Jin's curiosity. Unable to ignore it, he edges closer to investigate. As his fingers hover near the doorknob, Yoo unexpectedly appears behind him, questioning his actions. The brothers stand in tense silence, straining to hear any further noise, but the room grows eerily quiet. Yoo brushes off Jin's curiosity, attributing it to a desire to avoid studying. Though still suspicious, Jin hesitates before joining Yoo for a breath of fresh air outside. Standing in the rain, they talk briefly, Jin expressing gratitude for Yoo's unwavering support. Their moment is interrupted when Yoo's flip phone rings. It's their father, asking him to handle a document that he had given him before. Yoo returns to the house, leaving Jin alone under the rain with his music. Soon after, Jin decides to go back inside, but what he witnesses stops him cold. A group of men forcibly take Yoo into a van and drive off. Panicked, Jin rushes home to alert his parents, but collapses before he can fully explain. While unconscious, almost lifelike dreams flood his mind, leaving him with an uneasy sense of familiarity. After several days, Jin finally wakes up, much to his parents' relief. However, Yoo remains missing. They inform Jin that detectives will soon question him about the night of the kidnapping. Meanwhile, Jin recounts every detail for the detectives, including the black van's license plate number, but the detectives claim the van doesn't exist, frustrating him to no end. With no new leads, the family begins a tense wait for a ransom call that never comes. As weeks pass, Jin becomes haunted by recurring dreams, familiar scenes that feel unnervingly real, and nightmares about the locked room. On the 19th day, Yoo unexpectedly returns home, but has no memory of what happened. The doctor explains that the situation Yo experienced likely caused him to repress those memories, which is caused by dissociative amnesia. Jin, though relieved, starts noticing subtle differences in Yoo. His brother now slips out at night, but is always back by morning. Initially dismissing it, Jin shrugs off the odd behavior. One day, while reaching for his antidepressant pill that had accidentally fallen under the kitchen counter, Yoo interrupts him, inviting him to eat by telling him that he is hungry. Distracted, Jin skips his medication for the day. During the meal, Jin cautiously asks where Yoo goes at night. Yoo brushes it off, teasing that Jin might just be dreaming. As they finish eating, Jin notices something strange. Yoo's limp has got some problem with his right leg instead of the left. When Jin points it out, Yoo ignores and leaves the house by telling him not to joke. Jin returns to his room to study for his entrance exams and stays there until nightfall. The family gathers for dinner, and afterward, Jin resumes his studies until he falls asleep at his desk. At some point, Yoo quietly approaches, tapping Jin's face with a pen before slipping out of the house again. Once Jin sees you sneak out, he feigns sleep for a moment, then quickly changes his mind. Determined to keep track of him, he follows you to the street. When he watches you hop into a taxi, Jin wastes no time in grabbing one of his own to trail behind. The two taxis pull up at a bustling market. From a distance, Jin watches in disbelief as Yu meets with two men, the very same detectives who had interrogated him not long ago. To Jin's shock, Yu appears to be in charge, confidently taking the lead in the conversation. Curious and alarmed, Jin follows them, but is quickly stopped by the two men. A frantic chase ensues, forcing Jin to escape through the market's winding alleys. Just as he believes he's safe, Yu appears unexpectedly and suffocates him, which makes Jin unconscious. The next morning, Jin wakes at his desk, where he had been studying before following Yu. Confused and frightened, he locks himself in the bathroom, avoiding his brother. Yu tries to convince Jin it was all a hallucination caused by skipping his medication, dismissing the events as mere fabrications of Jin's mind. Calming slightly, Jin apologizes and tries to focus on his studies again. However, while tidying his desk, Jin finds a pencil lead dropped by Yu the previous night. He suddenly recalls that he never mentioned the taxi to Yu, making him certain the person who returned after the kidnapping isn't his real brother. Afterward, Jin shares his suspicions with his mother by warning her not to tell his father and suggests they follow Yu together the next time he sneaks out. That night, he experiences another nightmare about the locked room in which he sees his brother taking his own life. Unable to sleep, he heads to the kitchen for water and overhears a hushed phone conversation. His mother is speaking to Yu, warning him that Jin is growing suspicious. Slowly, Jin steps closer to the door, but the creak of the floor alerts her. Panicked, Jin dashes outside to hide as his mother searches for the source of the noise. Convinced Jin is inside, his mother heads upstairs to check his room. Meanwhile, Jin scales the outer wall in the pouring rain, sneaking back into his room just in time to slip under his blanket. However, the open window and his soaked clothes give him away. Realizing her cover is blown, the mother calls Jin's father, confirming their plan is unraveling. Jin, unable to trust them any longer, leaps out of the window and tries to escape, but he unexpectedly meets with his father at the gate. The father insists they're his real family and tries to let him inside the house, but Jin is now certain they are imposters. He pushes his father and runs to a nearby police station, pursued by one of the thugs. Once there, Jin frantically explains everything to the officers. However, the police are baffled by his claims, especially when Jin says he's 21 years old. They urged him to look at himself in a mirror and told him that he had a serious problem. Shocked, Jin sees the reflection of a much older man. Only then does he realize the year is 2017, not 1997. Confused and enraged, Jin returns to the house and forces his way into the locked room. Inside, he finds two mannequins sprawled on the floor, smeared with fake blood. As his family enters, Jin demands answers. The man posing as his brother steps forward, revealing a dark truth. 20 years ago, on December 20th, 1997, a mother and her teenage daughter were killed in that very house. The crime went unsolved, prompting the victim's family to hire him years later to uncover the killer. His investigation eventually led to Jin, whom they believe committed the death. To extract a confession, they kidnapped and tortured him, but Jin claimed to have no memory of the crime. Desperate for answers, the team turned to hypnosis, devising a plan to immerse Jin in his last happy memory, recreating the events leading up to that fateful night in hopes of triggering his recollection of the truth. Everything seemed to follow the plan until the young man was arrested for fraud. After being released 19 days later, the abduction Jin witnessed was explained, and the man's team had resumed their operation. The strange noises from the locked room were the team reconstructing the death scene, and the daily medicine Jin had been taking was part of the hypnosis to keep him immersed in their fabricated reality. Despite the revelations, Jin adamantly denies being a killer. In a moment of panic and confusion, he leaps from the car to escape. The team gives chase but crashes their vehicle into a tree. As Jin tries to escape, he's struck by an oncoming truck. Lying injured on the ground, fragmented memories of his past begin to surface. In his flashback, Jin is with his real family in their car when a sudden accident claims his parents' lives and leaves his older brother critically injured. Months later, a doctor informs him that his brother urgently needs surgery. Struggling in a collapsing economy with only a high school education, Jin desperately searches for work. An anonymous reply to his online job post offers a solution: money in exchange for killing someone. Overcome by desperation, Jin reluctantly agrees. The instructions are clear: enter a specific house, kill a woman, and leave her 2 children unharmed. Once inside, Jin is overcome with guilt and hesitates, intending to leave without completing the task. However, the woman unexpectedly appears and, upon seeing Jin with a knife, screams in terror. Jin, startled, urges her to stay quiet. To his relief, she complies, but the situation teeters on the edge of catastrophe. While trying to leave, the daughter descends the stairs and catches sight of him. Terrified, she runs to the upstairs, and Jin instinctively chases after her. In the chaos, he accidentally stabs her. The sight of the injured girl sends her mother into a panicked scream, and Jin, overwhelmed, stabs her as well. As Jin prepares to leave, a young boy emerges from another room. Jin, desperate to avoid further tragedy, calmly instructs the boy to return to bed, count to 1 to 10, and wait for his mother. The boy obeys without question. Before leaving, Jin notices a family portrait on the wall and is horrified to realize the house belongs to his brother's doctor. Later, Jin confronts the anonymous user, who reveals himself as the doctor. The man explains his desperate motives. He needed his wife's life insurance payout to secure a future for their children during the economic collapse. However, the doctor becomes enraged when he learns Jin also killed his daughter. A confrontation ensues, ending with the doctor attempting to push Jin off a rooftop. In the struggle, the doctor loses his footing and falls to his death. The flashback ends, and Jin awakens in a hospital bed, disoriented but alive. Sitting nearby is the young man who had been posing as his older brother, waiting patiently for Jin to fully regain his senses. The young man stands over Jin's hospital bed, ready to inject poison into his IV when Jin finally breaks. He confesses to the murders, recounting every harrowing detail of that fateful night. As Jin speaks, the young man reveals a devastating truth. He was the little boy from that night. Orphaned and abandoned, he grew up in an institution, suffering immense hardship. Any hope of solace from his mother's insurance money was crushed when his relatives claimed it all for themselves. Desperate for closure, the young man demands to know who ordered the hit on his mother. He shares his suspicions about his father, who had suspiciously registered multiple insurance policies just before her death. But Jin, protecting the truth, lies and claims he acted alone. The young man, however, sees through the deception, and his worst fears are confirmed. Unable to bear the bitter truth, the young man leaves the room, overcome with despair. Moments later, he leaps to his death from the hospital window. Left alone, Jin, equally consumed by guilt and anguish, picks up the syringe and injects himself with the poison, ending his life. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed the video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.